I'd like to say to all of the young innovators,
Black Lives Matter.
Could nonviolent action be used against ISIS?
You
Even
can
the
be
flutter
a
of
part
my false
of the
eyelashes
biggest
could
scientific
help.
discoveries of our time.
when I was 15, before I could vote, drive, or even had my first kiss, I sued the governor of Oregon. Yep. Now I'm 20, and I've gone to court 6 times. By choice. Yes, by choice, I have sat in front of a judge and filed cases against my state and federal government with help of local nonprofit Our Children's Trust. Because by choice, my government has been funding and permitting excessive amounts of fossil fuel projects that are polluting our land, air, water, and contributing to climate destabilization. And also by choice, they're remaining negligent on finding solutions and acting with urgency on this crisis. Now, I personally don't find it acceptable that the people we elect to protect us from harm are the very same people who are causing this climate catastrophe and therefore harming me. So, there's hope, I promise. Because us youth are eager to lead the climate movement. We want to lead in the courtrooms, in the classrooms, on the streets, at the dinner table, and I'm going to show you just how. Now, after my first climate hearing, a reporter asked me, "What will you do if you don't win?" And I was like, well, back to the streets I go. It's kind of sassy 16-year-old. Not uncommon. Well, that's exactly where I did go. At age 18, I walked halfway across the country, from Nebraska to Washington, D.C., with the Great March for Climate Action. Now, truth, I wanted to walk the whole distance starting in LA, but my parents encouraged me to graduate high school first, so I had to wait. But we walked across the country with the goal to inspire everyday action in everyday citizens and political leaders when we walk through the state capitals. But we also wanted to see firsthand the ways that climate change was affecting the political, social, economic, and environmental landscapes across our country. And what I learned was that all over this nation, communities are banding together, building resilience and awareness of these issues. And a lot of the people who are bringing this awareness and inspiring this hope are youth. I met 5-year-old Cora May in Nebraska. Her family has been ranching for generations on land that the Keystone XL pipeline threatened to go directly through. So she inspired her grandpa to take action. He actually filed a case, him and a couple other conservative ranchers, against the state of Nebraska, and they won for property rights violation. She and her other siblings, they made giant billboards that I actually got to witness them creating at a festival we had. And they created these giant billboards with renewable energy options, advocating for alternatives rather than this destructive pipeline. So Cora May and her siblings and her family helped spark this intergenerational community, building resilience and protesting this pipeline, and they were successful. Now, in rural Pennsylvania, I met 11-year-old Catherine. She's the one like this. That's her power stance. And Catherine learned that a frack well was going to be built under her favorite park in her small town. And so she learned what is a frack well, first of all. And second of all, she inspired her family and her younger sister to take action. They formed their own organization out of their living room. They got community support, and they helped protect their favorite little old park. Right? Youth have awareness. We see the problem for what it really is, a non-politicized reality, the consequences of which we will face the most directly, the most severely. And so 21 youth, including myself, have filed a constitutional climate change lawsuit against our United States federal government and 600 fossil fuel companies. So I want to bring you into this. It's the morning of our case, September 10th, and the other plaintiffs and myself and our families, we file into the courthouse first, and we're walking upstairs, about to enter the courtroom, and we hear in the distance this noise, this like, kind of beat, okay, some voices, and we're like, what is that? We look around, and we hear it getting louder, this distant chanting, and then singing, and then laughing. And we look at each other, and we bolt in our little heels, in our swanky outfits. We don't care. We bolt down the federal courthouse hallway, and we peer over that second floor glass window. And outside, we look as hundreds of high school students had marched across town carrying signs, an inflatable earth, banners, singing chants. And they gathered and formed the crowd, waiting to go into the line. And you know what? We youth, we took that righteous energy with us into that courtroom, and I still have it, because let me tell you, it doesn't feel so good to be 20 years old and sitting in the front row of a federal district courthouse with the government and the industry's attorneys sitting together at the same table, arguing how your case should be thrown out, how your rights to life, liberty, property, health, security, they don't matter compared to their business. That doesn't feel so good. It doesn't feel so good when those attorneys walk past you, trying their very hardest to avoid looking at the faces of the individuals who their clients are directly harming. These are the plaintiffs. This is our righteous energy. Youth need to be taken seriously. If we win this case, it will be revolutionary for environmental law. I see youth as change makers. I see youth as revolutionaries. There's something really important that we can learn from youth. It's called hope. And I don't mean wishful thinking or fantastic fantasies. I mean real, active hope, right? Hope that uproots you. Hope that calls you to act. Hope where you find a vision. You find that good feeling, and then you act with it. You take action. You personally find a stake in the matter. So these fifth graders, they wanted to know what they could do. They felt a little hopeful. So they made signs, and they asked me to come speak and pump them up for the first hearing. I did. They went to the courthouse. They actually made it on TV. They got a little excited. You know, they owned that day. They had a personal stake in that day. Well, look what happens with year 2. These are the same kids. They made their own T-shirts. Everything is connected to everything else. Look what happens when instilling just a little bit of hope and even the smallest action item can do for kids, for anyone. These kids found a way to personally matter in the situation, and they acted with their hope. We can all do this. And you might be stuck thinking, well, I don't know, Kelsey, that poster isn't really going to change the world, is it? Well, it's totally not, right? But don't let that voice discouraging you or saying this isn't good enough or this won't matter stop you from acting. Because what we know is that the crisis we're in was caused by actions that are knowingly and willfully hurting the people and the planet. We cannot combat these actions with passivity. That does not work. That does not make sense. We will act with what we can and what we have and what we know. I bet a couple of you are wondering, what can I personally do? Where can I start? So I'd like all of you to quickly try and jot down some of these next steps. There's some helpful tips that we've compiled. Ready? Okay. This might be the answer you're used to getting, right? But I'm here to tell you that the steps to being an agent of change, to committing to being a change maker, starts like this. You show up, you say yes, and then you bring your magic, right? It's a reflective process. Long, withstanding, big impact change starts from the individual, and no one can bring what you have. So bring your magic. I also hear that we need everyone to join, because I hear a lot of the time that millennials, we're not looked on very well. We're told that we're entitled, that we lack ambition and drive. Well, you know what? We are entitled to making sure that our constitutional rights to life, liberty, and property are upheld. And you know what? We are ambitious and working. We are ambitious and working to make sure that the planet we inherit will be habitable. When we're faced with depleting ice sheets, lack of food storage, deforestation, rising oceans, changing weather patterns, I see youth as innovative, creative, adaptable, solutionary, And I invite you all to see that same vision. So, based on what we have, we could either be the most selfish, self-centered generation, or we could be the most self-aware, self-reflective, empowered generation to come together, collectively inspire and create action. That's what I see. I want all of you to look around each other and look at yourself. And the next time you take a selfie, really, really look at yourself. We are the change makers. The energy I felt from the second floor of that courthouse, I still feel that. That power, that unity, that energy, that excitement, that drive from the younger generations. And our climate case, we're winning. We're going to trial this year. I see our future as bright and youthful and engaged. So from the words of two of my favorite kids, tell them we're climate kids, and we were here, and we did work. Let's all get together and do good work. It's time for revolutionaries. It's time for solutions. Let's all be actively hopeful, everyday solutionaries. Thank you.